Welcome in, I'm Artress, and with the release of EB03, Vivi gets a makeover that makes her new leader quite powerful. We've seen Vivi have a leader of these colors in red and blue in the past, back in OP04. In fact, that's one of the first videos that I did for this channel a few years ago, but unfortunately for that leader, it wasn't quite a competitive pick. But with this new Vivi from EB03, she does away with the card draw engine from OP04 and instead gives her characters rush, while giving her opponent's characters power reduction. Her leader ability specifically says once per turn, if your character with a base cost of 4 or more would be KO'd, you may trash one card from your hand instead, and activate main, you may rest this leader, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power during this turn, then up to one of your characters without a when attacking effect gains rush during this turn. I in fact think this leader ability is much more powerful than the previous one for two reasons. The first thing being that she can protect her board quite easily with just pitching one card. It doesn't matter if that card is going to be KO'd through combat or through an effect, she has protection for her board, which was one thing that she didn't have in the previous leader, which of course, if you lost your board, you lost the game because that leader couldn't attack. This one has the option to attack or to give something rush, which is very powerful. And when you do give it rush, as I mentioned, you're giving one of your opponent's characters power reduction, making it easier to trade into that character. But before we go over the deck list and onto any gameplay, if you're new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub button and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It helps out the channel so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord community. The link for that is in the description below. So when I first saw this leader, I was looking at a few lists that were doing well in the East to see kind of how people were operating her, and a lot of people were leaning very heavily into the Alabasta package, which I personally was not a fan of, but I did see one list that was doing well through Jelly Beans, who he ended up doing a kind of a hybrid KO build, and so I started testing that build out and made some tweaks to it based off of my gameplay style and things that I saw that could have been adjusted. Starting off though, we're running a playset of the Otama 2K counter. This has an on play, just give an opponent's character minus 2,000 power during this turn. This synergizes quite well with your leader ability, being able to reduce something down to minus 4,000 power. Really easy to trade into things or KO based off of power. I'm running a playset of the Sanji 2K counter. This is in the deck for a couple of reasons. One, because of the fact that you can give this rush and it swings in for 7,000 power very easily. But secondly, because you can cheat this out with the new 5-cost Vivi blocker because it is a Straw Hat Crew type card. Addition that I made to this deck that I really enjoy is the 3-cost Sanji. This is a 3-cost 3,000 power. Your turn, this character gains plus 3,000 power, and on KO draw a card. Now you're unable to protect this character with your leader ability because it is a 3-cost, so you can only protect things that are 4-cost or higher, but you're not really wanting to protect this card. You're wanting to get a quick chip swing in and be able to then recur a card in its place. So that's the reason why I put this in the deck. Once again, you can cheat this out with the 5-cost Vivi blocker, but more importantly, this gives you something to do more consistently when you are going first. Now, the list that Jelly Beans was running was a great list, and that list was very heavily, if you go second, you have a great curve, but if you go first, your 3-dawn turn is a little bit awkward, other than either playing the 2-cost Sanji 2K counter or just swinging 8 with your leader, and I didn't really like those options, and so that's why I have this 3-cost Sanji in here instead, to have an additional play to be able to do on 3 if you need it. Then we're running a playset of the 4-cost Chopper blocker. This is just, once again, a Straw Hat Crew type card that you can cheat out with the Vivi blocker from EB03. We'll get to that card in a second, I promise. The other thing here is that on defense, it has plus 2,000 power, making it a little bit more tricky to get past if your opponent's just wanting to swing baseline 5s. One of the stars of the show for this deck is the new EB03 Nami, a 5-cost 7,000 power character that says on play, you may give one of your active leaders minus 5,000 power during this turn, draw one card, and then activate main once per turn. If your leader has the Alabasta type, give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 1,000 power during this turn. So when you do play this down, you are able to reduce an opponent's character by minus 3,000 power during that turn when you do play it, and then subsequent turns after that, you can just use the minus 1,000 power to get something within range of either trading more efficiently or with a KO effect. With this Nami on the board already established, it makes things like the Ben Beckman a lot easier to trash cards. You can trash a card that is up to 7,000 power, but keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to give this rush in order for that effect to take place. You can use your leader ability preemptively to be able to give something minus 2,000 power and forego a rush unit and instead then play something that can get within that range. So keep in mind that you can actually get rid of a 9,000 power character with your leader ability first, the Nami on the field by a minus 1,000, and then playing the Ben Beckman out. You can also do something very similar with this 8-cost Rayleigh. I'm running 3 of those in here. On play, choose up to 2 of your opponent's characters until the end of the opponent's next turn. Give one character minus 3,000 power and the other minus 2,000 power. After this, KO up to one of your opponent's characters the power of 3,000 power or less. So this makes trading into things very easy, and especially if you can give it rush and give something an additional minus 2,000 power and swing into it, pretty much the board is gone on that turn for the opponent. So this card's great. I do have it at 3 because I wanted to make room for one Roger, which we have in the deck. Spoiler alert, that is a card that I think is really needed for some matchups, especially against Emu or any kind of blocker heavy deck. So I did want to make room for that card. We are running 2 of the KO Shanks. It's a 10 cost, 12,000 power character that says on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 10,000 power or less. So once again, you can use this in conjunction with your leader ability first to get rid of a 12,000 power character. You don't always have to do that. Most of your opponent's characters will be within range so that you can KO this on play and then give this rush, but sometimes you do need to work around that, and for those scenarios, this card's really good. I would like to increase this a little bit more, but I do think that the ratios we have here are pretty solid overall. This is something I might want to increase later on down the road. Then we're in blue, so I feel like it's very natural to have a pudding at least. I was running this at 1 for a while, but I wanted to see it more often because I noticed my opponent started getting larger and larger hands, and I was not able to punish them. And having pudding at 2 means that you're probably going to be able to see it by that point in time when your opponent has started hoarding all those cards. Pudding is a great option, especially if you already established a pretty big board. You play the pudding down and then you swing with all your units, causing your opponent to take some really awkward hits that they would have been able to counter out of normally. Now, the other all-star of the deck and quite the engine for this deck overall is the 4-cost Cavendish. When you're going second, this is the card you're going to mulligan for more often than not. This card being able to, when attack, draw 2 and then trash 1 is very powerful, and of course you're able to protect this very easily with your leader ability if your opponent tries to trade into it. Then here is the 5-cost Vivi blocker from EB03 that I mentioned a few times already. It's an on-play, play up to 1 Straw Hat Crew type or Alabasta type character card with a cost of 5 or less from your hand. Then you cannot play character cards during this turn, so your prime target with this is going to be this 5-cost Nami, but you can play other things like this 3-cost Sanji, you can play the 2-cost Sanji, you can also play the 4-cost Chopper. You also have the option of playing the 5-cost blocker Nami, so if you want, you can double blocker up in a turn. This is a very good card for this deck as well. On play, if your leader is multicolored, draw 3 and place 2 cards from your hand at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So if you need to filter your hand to find an answer, this is a great card to throw down pretty early on. Now, another addition that I really enjoy in this deck is the 7-cost Kairos. I think that this is a very strong card as is, but one of the problems with it is that it was only really good in the Usopp or Rebecca deck because the Colosseum gave it rush, or pseudo rush rather, and if you can give this card rush without having to have pseudo rush, I think this card is outstanding. Being able to return a 5-cost or lower to the owner's hand hits a lot of targets, and on top of that, it bypasses a lot of anti-KO effects in the field, so this is just a great option. I have it at 2 because I think I want to see Ben Beckman on 7 more than I want to see this Kairos, but this Kairos is a very strong option regardless. It doesn't have counter, so that's the reason why we have less of it as opposed to like the Ben Beckman as well, because Ben Beckman has a 1k counter. And then finally for characters, we have the draw 4 Kaido. I was between this card and the bounce Kaido. I think both are solid options, but I just like having a really big hand. And on top of that, sometimes I find myself having to counter out of hits because if your opponent is playing it correctly, more times than not, they should be attacking your face. And so of course, you're going to have to defend those and be low on hand size. So the Kaido can help replenish that if that's the case. And then finally, we're running 2 Bad Manners Kick Course. We have quite a lot of cards that have no counter on it. We have a lot of cards that have counter on it as well. But unfortunately, if you do happen to draw into a bunch of non-counter cards, this card will help at least alleviate that pressure a little bit if your opponent starts to put their foot on the gas. Of course, this has a nice trigger of giving an opponent's character or leader minus 3,000 power if it does come from life, but more times than not, I'm just keeping this in hand. I was trying out the 1-cost Vivi event that came out in EB03, but unfortunately, I found myself not really finding the time to use it because I was tapping out most turns. We'll go over some additional changes at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But overall, I think that this leader is very strong. I think it's a competitive pick to bring to any EB03 event. I think that it holds its own against a lot of decks in the meta. I think it has a great matchup into Ace. I think it can handle Emu quite well, and it also has a decent matchup into Mihawk, despite the fact that Vivi has a slash attribute, which gives Mihawk an additional 1,000 power. That doesn't quite matter too much because what you're trying to do against Mihawk is get rid of their board, and if you can reduce the power of their board when they tap sideways and trade into it, you're doing well. So I think that Vivi has a pretty solid matchup across most of the playfield. Maybe into some yellow decks, it can get a little bit rough, like maybe against starter deck 29 Luffy, it could be a little bit rough because I think 6 life versus 4, obviously they just have a little bit of advantage there, and especially if they start seeing triggers and have a way to bypass blockers. Boa can also be a little bit tricky. You have to play that one a little bit differently than normal, more aggro than usual. The way that I play this deck is a little bit more of a control variant, but you have the option of putting your foot on the gas yourself and just really hitting face as much as possible. With all that in mind though, let's take this list into the sim and see how it does. All right, Mihawk, I'm going to choose to go first, take away their curve. I'm not entirely happy with this hand, so let's mulligan it. This is much better because we have a 3, 5, 7 play into an 8-cost Rayleigh. This is actually a really good curve for us, and if we see what we need after that, we're in a pretty good spot. If we can find a 5-cost Vivi blocker to pair with that Nami, I'd be really happy. but we might not have it. We might just have to play the Nami outright. This is a little bit of a tricky matchup because of the fact that they are a 1,000 power or an additional 1,000 power leader. So they're at 6,000 power, meaning we can't swing 5 this next turn. Grabbing a Law and Beppo off the Kid Killer, good to note. We have the pudding in hand to be able to get rid of that if that is the case going into their Tendon turn. Here, we're just going to give the Sanji Rush and then swing in with the Sanji 6-6 just so we pressure them here. Otherwise, we would have just played this out and then not done anything at all. You could have swung 8 as well, but I think getting a body on the field is a little bit better. And hopefully they attack into it and give us a card draw in the process. If they don't, it might come to bite them in the butt a little bit later. This Kinemon from OP14, interesting to see into the deck list. Set up to 3 of your Dawn cards as active. Then you cannot play any character cards on your field during this turn. On KO, rest up to 1 of your opponent's cards. Okay, interesting effect. I don't see this too often, but I suppose with Mihawk not really having any 4 Dawn plays, this is pretty solid actually. So usually they don't have anything to do on their 4 Dawn turn. Nice to see them have something. And here they're just going to swing 9 into lead. I'm just going to take it. Obviously, I'm not going to counter out of that, even if I had the counter to do so. Let's swing 6 into lead, ask for a card out of hand. We're just chipping them down here. Then we'll swing 7 right after that. Haha, 6, 7. And then, I don't know, they're going to give us a counter there. I was going to say maybe they take both of them, but looks like they're probably not going to take both. I would imagine they'll counter out of this one as well. They might actually take this one. I don't know if they want to give me a 2K, give 2 cards out of hand the same turn. Going to play Kid and Killer to pop open. Okay, and then there's that event, the Luffy event, that can freeze a unit or +3. So we did get 2 cards out of hand. That is very good for us. 5 into lead. They're just ignoring the Sanji. Very interesting to see. I'm going to go ahead and just give them the Ben Beckman here, and then I'll probably end up taking this next hit. Perona's pretty annoying to see. Indeed, they're going to rest the Law and swing 9 into lead. They're just adding a lot of pressure, which is really good for them. I'm going to go ahead and just play this Kairos out, bounce the Perona back to hand, and then give the Kairos Rush and swing into the Law. If they want to play the Perona again, they totally can, but I think they want to start playing some of their bigger characters after this. They might want to play the 7-cost Shanks this next turn, and then start trading into some of the stuff on the board, either the Nami or the Sanji, but so far they've telegraphed that they don't care. They don't care about my board. They just want to hit face, which is totally fine. They could get rid of the Sanji if they want to, but the Nami and the Kairos are a lot harder to get rid of. With 7 cards in hand, about to go into their Tendon turn, we definitely want to consider Pudding as a play for this next turn. So what we could do is we could Pudding and then play a Nami out, and then swing 6, 7, 9, if we're able to at least. It depends on what they play this turn. If they play another Perona, we could be looking at just swinging the Kairos. So we'll have to see what they do. Down comes the Perona, as expected. Probably their best play, just to prevent the Sanji and Nami from attacking. And then they might want to get or trade into... Actually, they couldn't. If they are smart about it, they'll just hit face no matter what they do, because I can just pitch a card to protect the Kairos, which is really nice about Vivi, but also very scary about Vivi, because if your opponent realizes that, then they're not going to try to trade into the characters, and they're just going to hit the gas and hit your face. And that can suck. It could definitely suck, is one of the reasons why we have the 10-cost Kaido, to be able to replenish our hand if we need it. Here comes 10 to the face. Just going to take it. It's one of those where I don't really have much to do outside of that. Here we can do a couple things. I think what we could do first is... I think we might want to just pressure face and see if they take this. And if they take it, then I'm inclined to play the Pudding. I think they will take this based off of the fact that they gave us 2 cards earlier, and a 9-6 is not necessarily the easiest thing to counter out of. Of course, they likely have counter events to be able to get themselves out of this, but if I were them, and I'm expecting this, I would expect them to just take this hit, go down to 3 life, and have a bunch of cards in hand. Knowing that they have Law and Beppo ready to go, I want to see if I can get that out of their hand, though, and so this Pudding is very crucial for that. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to play the Pudding, we're going to give the Pudding a rush, and then swing the Pudding into the Perona. They do take it, so great. I'm going to play this Pudding down, and then we're going to give Perona minus 2,000 power, an additional 1,000 power from the Nami, and then swing 4 into 3, asking for 2k here. Now, they could just let this one go, and that's fine, and they could play out a 5-cost character, which this is always the risk, but sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes they do, and it's an additional card out of hand. Looks like they do have it because they're using the ability here to pay or rest a Dawn. We'll see what target they bring out. The Stun Bonnie is pretty solid. Not a bad option. We're just going to go ahead and play the Vivi and then play out the Nami. I think I'm going to keep this hand. I'm going to put the Kairos to the bottom, and then we'll keep the Shanks and the Rayleigh in our hand here. Now, of course, the Bonnie coming out does suck, but it is what it is. Hopefully they don't have a Law and Beppo to follow it up with. I hope that we were able to get it out of their hand, and it looks like we were. A 9-cost Mihawk coming down and preventing I would imagine probably the Kairos from attacking the next turn is pretty huge. Okay, so it's the Nami. They're just trying to apply a lot of pressure here. It looks like they're just trying to close out the game, get me to 0, which could signify that they have DMG to be able to rest my blockers. So here, we don't really want to go down to 0 if we don't have to. I think it's probably worth giving the 0 cost event plus a Rayleigh here, or also using the blocker, but let's just counter out of this first one in case they want to swing 8 after that. And then here, I think we just block and don't give them a card. I think we just let the blocker go. What I'll end up doing this next turn is I think I just want to pressure this Bonnie down a little bit. Swing 6 into 5, because swinging 6 into 6 for their leader is less effective actually here. So we want to pressure this Bonnie down, see if we can get it off the field with the units we have first, and then surprise them with the 10 cost Shanks, KOing the Mihawk, and if we need to, swing into the Bonnie, but hopefully by then the Bonnie has already gone down. 6 into 5. I imagine because they are thinking about this, they're probably just trying to protect it, so they have an additional unit to be able to try to close the game out with, because I think they're just trying to close it out this next turn. And then, of course, with the Mihawk being 10,000 power, we are able to just cleanly KO it with the Shanks. We could just outright do it right now and then trade easily into the Bonnie, but I want them to use their resources, or at least give them the opportunity to use the resources, so it makes closing out the game the turn after easier for us. Because with 4 cards in hand, you don't know what they have. With 2 Dawn open, it seems like they have some counter events. So we want to make sure that we get as much value out of them as possible. They are using the Mihawk ability here to give the Bonnie plus 2,000 power by pitching a brick. 7 into 5 here. They're thinking about it. Okay, yep. Well, that's fine for us. We're going to go ahead and just KO the Mihawk and then devastate their world. 12 into 3 here. No way of getting out of that one. I think that they were expecting both of these units to stay alive. And this is like the worst case scenario for them. And we do have a bunch of counter in hand here, so we're looking pretty good. If they want to swing into my leader really heavy, then what I'm going to end up doing is, oh, here's the Shanks. Okay, so Shanks coming down here. That makes it a little bit trickier. Our battle math is not nearly as clean because, of course, with this rested, my entire field has a minus 1,000 power blanket. 11 into 5 here. They're just going hard. They're leaving one open. Not quite sure what it's for. It's probably for DMG. That's my guess. What do we do here? I would say let's see if we can just get some cards out of hand first. We'll go 6 into 6. This is really tricky for them because I could just go for lethal. If they don't counter out here, if they're not careful, then I could just potentially math it out. But also, you don't know what if they do have counter in hand. Sometimes it is a little bit more difficult to just math things out against Mihawk. So I think baseline swings are pretty much a given at this point. And if they do give us a counter here, we just turn our attention into the Shanks. I think we just put one onto the Kairos and swing 9 into 9, but it all depends on what they do here. This is a very important turn. It was DMG as expected. I'm going to use the Nami ability instead of putting Dawn on. I forgot I could even do that. So we'll go 8 into 8 here. Don't have to attach any Dawn. Then we'll go 6 into 6. And I think what we could end up doing here is swinging 8 with lead. And then if they want to swing all out, I think we should have enough to be able to get out of it based off of our hand right now. So I'm actually going to feel pretty comfortable swinging the Nami as well. We'll swing 12 into 6 here, and then I'm going to swing 13 into lead with the Nami. If they decide to go 15 or rather 16 into lead here, I think math is for chumps. We'll figure it out if we have it. Let's just go 13 into 6. This more than likely will go through. Depending, I mean, they have to have a miraculous hand, which I don't think they would. Yep, as expected, it was just like kind of bricky. If they were able to have something like Trichealism into 2K, we were in a little bit of trouble there. But based off of our hand, we have 7, 9, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16. We would have been able to get out by exactly 1K. Into ace, they get their preferred going second. That's fine for us. This hand is actually not bad because we do have plenty of plays on 5. We don't have anything necessarily on 3, which isn't the worst thing against ace anyway. We could just swing 8 here and pressure them down to 2 life. Sometimes, though, ace, I mean, it depends. Maybe they don't want to get pudding. Maybe they're afraid of it, so they might want to over-counter here using their Garp to grab the blocker Newgate. This Kaido's really good for the late game against ace here. We really like having our top end against ace. 8 into 6. This likely will go through, but like I said, they might be afraid of pudding. So there's a world where they could give us their leader ability plus a 1K. And then the following turn, what we'll end up doing is just playing out the Vivi blocker. They are going to use their leader ability plus a 1k, plus a 2k. We'll take that. So Vivi into Nami, and then swing 7 into lead. All right, against some Marco, that kind of sucks. I'm just going to have to take this hit because I have no 2ks in hand. 0 cost event. Pretty nice to have, especially since we have a little bit of a bricky hand here. Let's go ahead and play out this Vivi into the Nami, draw a card. And then let's just give the Marco minus 2,000, an additional minus 1,000, and then swing 7 into 6. I don't think they're going to block this one here. I think they're probably just going to use their leader ability since they don't have Dawn attached. They don't get their draw. They give us a blocker Newgate, which is interesting to see. Probably signifies that they have more, obviously, at that point. I think the worst thing we can see this turn is like a Jozu. Jozu bounce the Garp, bounce my Nami, because that sets us back by a little bit. If they don't have anything, oh wow. Okay, they don't have it. They're pitching the I Am Whitebeard event. Interesting to see all of this going on. Sometimes Ace just doesn't have their curve, especially if they don't take hits. They don't draw cards to see what they need. That is one downside to Ace at times. Curve gaming is important. They are able to replace the blocker Newgate with another one. Them pitching an I Am Whitebeard event probably means that they have another one in hand as well. So their hand's probably 2 bricks and then maybe 2 counter. At this point, oh, okay, so they don't have another body. They're just swinging 5 here. I'm going to give them a 1k, and then we'll take what is likely going to be a 7 from their leader. We'll take that one. They're just going to apply some pressure here. Maybe, I mean, we'll just give them a brick, I suppose. 7 into 7. We'll give them the Nami. Our hand size is pretty small, which sucks, but also means that they're not going to be able to putting us. We're going to go ahead and just give the Beckman rush. That's really nice for us because we are not giving them card draw. We're denying the card draw because Marco says on KO. The Beckman is trashing that, so it bypasses the KO. Pretty nice overall. 7 into 6. They do have a pudding. Interesting to see. They'll give us the leader ability for that, and then I imagine they'll probably take this one. They give us a 2k. They are aggressively defending their life, which is interesting to see. 8 cost event into the 10 cost Newgate, as expected. They did have it. They might want to take their life here because they are pretty low in hand size, and that would make it harder for us to pressure them if that's the case. They are going to do that. Okay, so that's probably why they were aggressively defending their life, is because they wanted to be able to take their life at some point and make it really hard for me to swing into them. Do I agree with that? I don't know. Pitching another 10 cost is a little bit interesting there, though. I don't think I would have done that if that's the case. If they're going to go, pretty heavy, probably into, I mean, if they want to give me cards, they're going to go into life, but also have a blocker available as well. Okay, so we'll just block and then let that go. I'm not going to protect it because I want to make sure I keep my hand size relatively okay. This Vivi into this Nami is pretty solid as well. Ooh, this hand is actually really interesting. How do we want to do this? So I think we could be really greedy. I think having 2 10 drops, even 3 10 drops is pretty solid in this spot, especially since they've pitched 3 of them already. Pitching a Rayleigh I think is fine. 0 cost event, just as a backup, is not something I really want to pitch. And their hand size is pretty low anyway, so maybe pudding is fine to just get rid of here. Have a 0 cost event and a 2k is probably going to be our best bet. Let's go ahead and just reduce the power of the Newgate down to 9,000 power. And let's swing 9-9 so we make it a little bit awkward for them. They have to use their leader ability to get out of one of these and then block 1k. Unless they just want to take one of these hits. They can't just freely block, which is really nice. And the next turn, what we can do is end up playing the 10 cost Kaido down, draw, replenish our hand. And then at that point, we hopefully have enough to be able to protect ourselves after that. So, okay, they are giving us a counter for that. I think they're probably just going to take this one. I don't think they want to go down to 1 in hand. Another reason why I got rid of the pudding is that their hand size was pretty low. They've already told us that they want to stay as healthy as possible here. There, they do take a hit, and they go up to 5 cards. So if they take another hit, they'd be up to like 7 or so. So maybe pudding is not the worst thing to keep in hand at that point. But a tax beard and then 2 blocker beards in the trash means that they have 1 more blocker beard ready to go somewhere if they find it. They have to have the 8 cost event though. Ooh, okay, so I was gonna say if it's the other Jozu, we're in a little bit of trouble, but it's not. Down comes Marco. Okay, that's fine. Into a Cavendish. Overall, I think we're in a good spot here. They're probably gonna swing 7 into, I mean, if they swing 7 into a character, we'll give them a brick easily. They've already done this a few times. I'll just give them a 2k. I want to hold on to my bricks. I'm trying to be as greedy as possible here. Shanks is also very interesting, but I think what we want to do here is at least pressure them first. We have the option of getting rid of the Newgate, so I kind of want to see what they do first. If they use the Newgate as a block unit, we could just swing into it. We could KO the Marco and then swing into the Newgate. 12 into 10 or 12 into 9 rather, but I think they're probably just going to block one of these. If they take one of the hits, then we can also just play Roger as well. So that's why we're swinging first, just to see what we do. Let's not use the ability. We don't want to signify anything quite yet. We want to force them. Okay, there's the Marco block. And then here, I think what we do is, I think Kaido's actually probably just fine anyway. Let's go and reduce the new gate down. We'll get it down to 9. We'll play the Kaido, draw a bunch of cards, and most of these are bricks anyway. Unlucky. 12 into 6. They might want to block, give us some cards, but that's one of those things where I don't think they want to drop any more cards here. And instead, they're probably just going to, yeah, take the life, and that's why we have Roger in hand to be able to get past this. We do have a pretty big hand size as well, which they, if they have pudding, could be a good time to pudding us. Attacking the bodies overall here is kind of annoying, actually, even though we can protect them. It's annoying because I'm having to drop cards from hand. Okay, so they do grab an Uta. They play the Uta out, have double blocker. Pretty nice to see. And there's a pudding, but we got a Roger back. Oh, we got a little bit lucky there. Wow. Wow. That doesn't really happen too often, getting a Roger when there's only one of the deck. The pudding actually ended up fixing our hand, ironically enough. We have more counter, or a little bit better counter here overall. Going to go 8 into lead. Now they change their target. They're going to go into face. That's fine. I think we just take this one. And then we can block one of the other ones with the Vivi blocker. And then just let it go. We're going to go for game here anyway. So I think that's fine. We'll take that hit. More counter in hand. And then, what is it? 7 into lead here. Yeah, we'll just block with the Vivi. We could also just take the hit. It doesn't really matter anyway. We're going for game this next turn. 7 into 7. I mean, hey, this is still trying to get cards out of hand. It is what it is. We're just going to block this one and let the Vivi go. And then we're just going to play out the Roger immediately and then swing 6, 7, 7, 12, 13. And there's no way they can get through that with as many cards as they've had in hand. So once again, this matchup is pretty favorable if you can find some of your top end and then control the board where you can. Reducing the power of things is really, really useful against Ace anyway. Against any deck for that matter, but especially useful against Ace. So we'll swing 7 here. They gave us their leader ability on a 6 instead of using a 1K here. So maybe a few misplays here and there overall from the Ace player. They played it fine based off of their cards they had. But I think what they could have done better is maybe pressure face in some scenarios. Swinging 7s into my leader instead of some of the board is going to be harder for me to defend. So I think that's where they could have applied a little bit more pressure. Of course, we had blockers up anyway. So I don't think it mattered too much. All right, against Purple Yellow Rosinante, a leader I'm really excited about for EB04. It got some really good support. We're going to choose second because I like that curve in general. And this hand is actually really good, being able to play 2-cost Sanji into 4-cost Cavendish into Vivi into Nami. So really strong start for us. If we were able to see pieces after that, really good. I think we're just going to play the Sanji down here because I don't want to get tricked into getting my hand ripped by the 4-cost law that takes cards out of hand if you're at 7. This will at least prevent us from doing that. And then we might want to just protect our first life because I think I want to use the Sanji at some point. And we're going to get that card back with the Sanji. So I think that's important here. They're playing out the Rosie to grab the promo blocker law, which is pretty good here. Yep, that's fine. I think what I'll do is I'll swing 5. I don't know if I want to use the Sanji quite yet, to be quite honest. I want to do a play where I'm like really pressuring. So let's swing 5 first. Let's swing 5 and see if they block. If they block, I might want to use the Sanji ability. Nah, I think we'll just pass. I think we want to apply the pressure this next turn because what we can end up doing is playing out the Nami and then swing 3 7s. We probably want to defend this life, I think is going to be our best bet, but I would expect a 6-cost, Rosie blocker to come down. Swinging 6 into life here, we'll give him a 2K. I'm going to keep my hand size pretty low just because I want to keep this this top life. The ability to rip. I want to rip it with the Sanji so it counts as a card draw. We would have gotten it anyway. I don't want to go down too low in life. And then what we can do is we can swing for 3 7s this next turn, which will be a lot of pressure for them. So we put one under the Cavendish, we swing 7 with the Nami, and then use the Sanji ability to swing a 7 again. Now this turn, they're probably considering, do they play out... Okay, I was going to say they might be considering playing out the Rosie blocker. They don't. They're just going to double block her up with the promo law. Totally fine there. Let's go ahead and swing 7 first. Kairos is really big here. Kairos is really big because of the fact that they can just bounce some of their stuff, which bypasses what Law does. Law protects their units from KO by taking a life. Let's go ahead and swing 7 into lead here, see if we can get one of these blockers off the field or force them to block, and then we'll swing into it. We're just going to swing another 7. Like I said, a really aggressive barrage of 7s is nice here. They might want to... I feel like they might want to just block this one, but they're going to give me a 2 and a 1. which is really nice here. And then we have double Kairos to back it up into a Roger, just in case they do go down to 0 life. So our hand, even though we're kind of bricked up right now, is pretty good. And it doesn't really matter if we are bricked up because we can protect our life with this blocker Vivi, pitching a brick in the process. So overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot. I don't know if I want to attack into their units though, because it's kind of the same thing. 5 into 3, I'm just going to let that one go. Attacking into their units is kind of the same thing as like attacking into my units. They can protect it. It's a little bit harder for them to protect theirs because they have to take life in order to do so. But with the new 8-cost Rush Law, here comes down the Rosinante and Law blocker. With a new 8-cost Rush Law, they can heal life. So that's not really that big of an issue for them. I'm just going to block or bounce this blocker Law back. We're going to reduce the 6-cost Law, Rosian Law blocker. And then we're just gonna go 7, 7, 9. Oh man, this is. I think we get rid of the KO Shanks because I think it's less effective overall. It's actually not bad. Honestly, all of these cards are good. Kairos is good against their deck. Draw Kaido is pretty solid as well. We're gonna hold on to the Roger. The KO Shanks would have been fine too, I think, because that would have forced them to take a life, and then we're also swinging in. So pretty good. Anyway, they're gonna use their I Love You event to grab a 1K. And then they're going to pitch a Sugar. You're going to swing 7 into lead here. Now this is awkward for them because they have a 5-cost or 5K blocker and a 6K blocker. They're just going to take everything here. Either meaning that this Roger is online this next turn, or the 8-cost Law that I just mentioned, which can heal them up 1, is coming down this turn, which that's probably their play. And honestly, it's their best play anyway, because this turn is going to be really chaotic on their end. Swinging with the 3-cost Law, finding something. The blocker Law, the 4-cost could swing, but I think they're probably just going to swing with the 3-cost Law, the 8-cost Law, their leader, potentially even the Rosian Law if they have another one in hand. This deck is really good. It's really fun. I enjoy it. I think it's actually something that I didn't think I would expect to enjoy, but it's actually well designed. It's actually a really well designed deck. I like tribal decks in Magic, and having a tribal deck in one piece is pretty interesting. Cavendish is pretty nice because it's pitch fodder for the Vivi. They're going to use their ability to heal up. The Rip Law. Okay, that hurts. That hurts. But at least it was nothing really of consequence. It was a Nami and a 0-cost event. Here, 6 into 5. I could just take this one. Honestly, I might want to... There's a world... I think I... Do I take this one? I don't know if I want to because I have 2 more swings. I think I block this one and force them to swing again. Let's pitch the Cavendish. Let's see if they want to swing again. I mean, they might be feeling good. They have 3 blockers here. I should have probably let that one go, though. That way I could be at 0 and I could play the Roger down. I think with Roger down and then having a 6, 7, a 5, 6, 7, 9, because I can swing with leader at that point, it's probably better overall. Maybe that was a mistake. I think I was a little bit worried that maybe if I let that one go, a 7 and an 8 could be... I mean, I'd have enough counter to get out of it, but yeah, I think that was a play mistake. Oh well. Let's see if we can at least get them to 0 with what we have on board first. So maybe we swing the Kairos first this next turn. They are swinging their blocker Law, the 4-cost one. Interesting to see. Okay, that's fine. They keep us at 1. Let's swing 6 first, see if we can get anything out of the way. Let's pitch a Cavendish. And then if they counter out of this one, I think we swing the Kairos and just see if they block. Swinging the Kairos, they might just take this one and have it go down to 0. And if they go down to 0, then we just throw down the Roger. Yeah, we just throw down the Roger, and then we're just going to swing 5, 7, 13. We're getting through anyway, but we could have done this a lot cleaner if we just took the life the previous turn, so we didn't have to worry about this anyway, so it is what it is. And at that point, yeah, they just don't have enough to get out of it. I should have just taken the life. On to Boa, I want to take second here. I'm going to mulligan this hand, and we do get Cavendish, thankfully. Once again, if you are going second, try to always mulligan for Cavendish if you can. It's just a really, really good card. And then into Nami on our 6 Dawn turn, so we can swing 7, 7. Pretty powerful. Unless they stack their life. Oh, Sanji's pretty good too. Let's throw the Sanji down. This matchup, we don't really have time to get to 10 to play our 10 drops. Or even use our 8 costs for that matter. 8 into 5, I just have to take this one. Okay, that's actually a really good draw there. Let's swing 5 into lead, see if we fill in risky. Do they get anything? Oh, it's the worst target. It's the worst thing that could have come out of life. Gorgon Sisters immediately blind. Oh, just sim things. They do have a lot of cards in hand, so interesting to note. Here's the Nami to rip a life. Oh God, we are in so much trouble here. Okay, so we don't have any 2Ks. And I don't want to go down to 0 this next turn, because if they have Femur, which they always have Femur, they even show us that they have Femur, then, you know, we're in some trouble. We are in some deep trouble. So I might actually want to counter out of... Did they not put one under their Gorgon sister? Okay, small play mistake. We would have countered out with 2 1Ks at that point if that was the case. But yeah, jeez, we are in a rough spot here. Let's swing 7. We're just applying pressure to face because we saw that they have 3 bricks in hand, so they probably have more as well. And then this turn, what we're going to do is we're just going to play another trigger. Is it another trigger? Please don't be another trigger. Please, please no more. Okay, so Slave Arrow, that's a fine trigger to have for us because that's not a body coming out of life. Totally fine, but it also rearranges their hand, meaning that they probably have some more counter here. Let's go ahead and play out this Vivi into the Nami, give the Nami rush, and then doesn't matter what, we're not really worrying about their bodies at all, so we're going to swing 7 into lead here. Just a bunch of 7s to face is going to apply some pressure. Maybe swinging the Sanji first could have been better, just in case. Actually, once again, Sanji's not good here because I don't want to actually use the Sanji ability to go down to 0, especially since they have Femur. We don't have nearly enough. I mean, we might. What are they going to go to? They're going to go to 7. Yeah, no, I think not going down to 0 is fine here. Let's just see if we can protect our life. Oh, Kuma sucks because it means it's harder to close out the game. Okay, so let's try to protect our life here so that we can actually use the Sanji effect. They're showcasing that they have 3 cards in hand that are still bricks. So Boa blocker, 9-cost Boa, and Femur, which means our 7s are really going to be effective here. So let's see if we are able to at least survive this onslaught. We'll give them a 2K. Totally fine here. 7 into lead. That means that they probably have another 7. I mean, they will have another 7 coming our way. 1 open for a potential counter event. Let's just go ahead and give them a 2 and a 1. And then if they do swing 7 here, we can block and pitch a Kaido because we're not going to really play the Kaido here. We're in a lot of trouble, so the game's probably over in the next turn or 2. So we kind of have to close out right now. Let's start off with a 6 because if they have a 2K in hand, we know the rest of their hand at this point. They take it. We'll swing 7. Let's see if they got a 2K. They take that one, interestingly enough. This Nami is actually really good. I think it's a better target than the Rayleigh here. A 5-7. Actually, the Sanji, a 3-6 could be better. The math is actually slightly better for the Sanji. I'm going to play the Nami anyway, just to get a card draw off, just in case we're in a little bit of trouble. Let's swing 8 here and see if they... I mean, with that Shakuyaku coming out, it's probably pitching their bricks out of hand. They might have gotten 2 2Ks. So let's see what we do, or what they do, rather. 8... Oh, they do have it. Okay, they're dropping... They didn't drop 2 2Ks. They dropped a 2-1-1. So let's go ahead and swing 6 with our Vivi blocker. I'm feeling pretty good here. And then if this is a trigger, we're in some trouble. But otherwise, if it's not a trigger here, that like is a Gravity Blade or a Red Rock, I think we probably can close the game out based off of what we saw in their hand. Let's just swing 7 into lead here and see if we can close out the game with all of this aggression. 1K, and the rest are the bricks that we saw. Okay, so we got a little bit lucky there. Maybe putting the 3-cost Sanji would have been slightly better than just playing out the Nami for better math overall, but we got there in the end. I'm quite surprised that the Roger, despite having only 1 in the deck, came up quite often in the video. We had a couple of scenarios there where I don't know if we would have won without the Roger there. So having the Roger is pretty nice overall. Once again, though, I think Vivi is in a really good spot for this meta. I don't necessarily think she is an S-tier deck, but I think in the hands of the right pilot, she can definitely be a consistent like top 32, top 16 deck for sure. Now, there are quite a lot of things you can add into this deck or change things around, especially with some of the support that she got from EB04. But unfortunately, but I guess also fortunately, I think that the list that we have here is just really solid. It's not one that I would really want to change. I've made quite a lot of changes to it, and let's kind of go over some of those really fast. I mentioned this event at the beginning of the video, the 1-cost event that basically just is a rad beam for free. It's if your leader is Vivi, up to one of your leader or character cards gains plus 4,000 power during this battle. I really like this card. I think that 1-cost plus 4,000s are incredibly strong. But like I said, I found myself tapping out on a lot of turns and not leaving Dawn open for scenarios where I might have needed to leave Dawn open for. And so as a result, this 1-cost event didn't make the cut, but I do think it's really strong. I tried this 3-cost Vivi to have an additional play on 3, but it doesn't really do much once you play it. Obviously, you're able to draw some cards off of it, but I didn't find that good enough to be able to make the cut. Of course, if you lean more heavily into Alabasta, but also maybe some Straw Hats as well, this 1-cost Vivi Searcher is pretty solid for the deck, but I found myself not really needing it with the Cavendish being established. You can just kind of find your pieces along the way. I do really like the 7-cost Vivi that came out in EB04. It plays up to 1 Alabasta type character card with a cost of 8 or less other than Vivi, and then your opponent has to put 1 card from their hand at the bottom of the deck. Very interesting effect. Obviously, you're going to try to put out this Chaka and Pell, so on 7 you can cheat out an 8-cost that has double attack and draws you 2 cards. You give it Rush and it's really strong. You can also cheat out this Luffy, which has Banish, so if you do find yourself in a very yellow heavy meta, this is a great card for that. When this card is in the deck, I found myself never losing to yellow just because you're banishing every one of their lives. And in fact, I actually made a list that was purely like Straw Hat and Alabasta, which I don't think this one is necessarily going to be a competitive pick, but overall I think that this list is something worth testing out a little bit more of. So this is something to note, that you could try this out, and it doesn't have a bad going first or second because you have Searchers in both Vivi and Igarum, and then if you want, you can play out this Vivi on 7 to cheat out the 8-cost. If you are going second, you have a pretty good going second curve, but obviously I don't think you want to lean too heavily into the Alabasta archetype if that's the case. This one doesn't rely on removal as much. It's just hit face, pressure your opponent, and cause some awkward scenarios for them. But yeah, those are some of the changes you can make to the deck. Overall, though, I think this list that we have here is very strong, and I won't be changing it anytime soon. I'm really happy with the ratios. Who knows, over time, I might switch things in and out. But overall, after 100 plus games, this is what I've landed on. What spicy inclusions have you added to your deck list? Let me know in the comments below as well. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.